What do you think of when you hear underutilized Capcom franchise? Okay, there's a lot that come to mind, but the topic for today's video is Devil May Cry, the franchise that defined the hack and slash genre, and is probably one of the main reasons Final Fantasy games aren't turn-based anymore. This franchise has 5 canonical games, 1 non-canon reboot, and 2 anime adaptations, one of which is premiering on Netflix next year. But for the sake of today's video, we are gonna focus on the games and rank their final bosses from worst to best. So with all that said, let's get right into it, shall we? Starting off with the worst Devil May Cry game, Devil May Cry 2 is an unfinished mess that you could literally beat by holding the square button. And that is exactly why this boss is placed at the lowest spot. After Dante defeated Arius, Lucia requests him to kill her since she found out she was a creation of Arius and she could become a monster anytime. But before Dante had a chance to take action, the door to the demon world opens and after a coin flip, Dante goes ahead. So yeah, Arcosax is basically an amalgamation, who you can defeat by destroying each of the heads one at a time, which again, you could do by holding square. But Nathan, don't you have to dodge attacks? Well, yeah, but funny enough, while I was fighting this boss, I was able to distance myself to the point where Arcosax literally couldn't land a hit on me, so I was free to win by holding square. It gets better in Phase 2 when you fight the Despair Embodied, which is a bit more fast-paced. Obviously inferior to other bosses in the Devil May Cry franchise, but I found this to be one of the better Devil May Cry 2 bosses. But then again, for one of the bosses in this game, you have to shoot a helicopter for like 20 minutes, so there's not really much to compare, I'm afraid. Which is why when I reach the point during my Let's Plays, after Devil May Cry 1, I'm skipping 2 and going straight to 4. Speaking of, let's get a move on. Devil May Cry 4. While I did enjoy the game, it did feel a bit rushed for my liking. I mean, I heard Kyrie was supposed to have a bigger role in this game, outside of the typical damsel in distress trope, and I hear Nero and Kratos were supposed to have some kind of rivalry going on, but it is what it is. Anyway, here we get Nero's final confrontation with Sanctus, who basically wants to take over the world via the Savior. The real ace in the hole about this boss's placement would have to be the fact it is relatively identical to his first fight, minus the 2v1 with the Savior joining in on the action cause, well, we're inside of it. That and the fact that the Sanctus fight wasn't exactly an S-tier fight in the first place, to be honest. Sanctus flies around with his shield up so you have to destroy it, but it's very tedious because, as I just said, he spends the whole fight flying around. After the fight, Nero kills Sanctus and releases Kyrie. After that, we cut to Dante's fight with the Savior coming to a close, but it seems like the fight isn't over just yet, so Nero takes over and yeah, this fight is just laughably easy. Just dodge his fists and attack them, then attack his head, then you're done. Relatively easy, and to be honest, I was a bit disappointed with this boss fight, but whatever. Let's move on to the number 4 spot. And now for the OG Devil May Cry villain. And I gotta say, Mundus is actually a pretty terrifying villain with a terrifying design. Anyway, Mundus tries to kill Dante, but Trish takes the blow, enraging Dante and starting the fight. This is clearly a boss battle carried by scenery and spectacle, as the fight itself is relatively easy. In the first phase, you just shoot Mundus with ki blasts. Second phase, you just go on top of the rising platforms and spam your attacks. And just like that, Mundus is dead, and we get some peak voice acting right here.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
Then we get to the next mission, where you have a Metroid-style, time-limited evacuation. Remember when I said Mundus is dead? Well, I lied, cause surprise surprise, he comes back. Which, to be honest, this is where this boss kinda falls off for me. Like, in my opinion, I think he kinda just overstays his welcome. But luckily for us, Trish somehow survived and lends her power to Dante, who is able to take out this Eldritch Abomination via Devil Trigger. This time he's gone for good, or at least until he comes back in a future game. But whatever, let's see which boss wins the bronze medal. You know, I was a bit skeptical about including the reboot at first, but judging from the unanimous results of the community poll I made a while back, it seems like I should include it. After he and Dante killed Mundus, Virgil out of nowhere brings up how they will rule humanity. Dante doesn't take too kindly to that idea and starts a fight with Virgil. This is obviously one of the lesser Virgil fights, but it's still pretty solid in its own right. It has the fast-paced combat these fights are known for, which I'll say is actually pretty fun. It really starts to get difficult during the final phase when Virgil uses his duplicate ability. But nonetheless, after the fight, when Dante was about to kill Virgil, he doesn't go through with it due to Cat's request, and Dante takes the title of the Protector of Humanity, and Virgil leaves, leading us to the Virgil's Downfall DLC. But yeah, again, this fight was pretty solid, but it's nowhere near as noteworthy as the other Virgil fights. Which, speaking of, let's see which one takes the silver medal. And now for the latest Devil May Cry game. After he predictably refused to give up the Yamato, he and Dante end up starting a fight. The first phase isn't too crazy, but it really starts to get intense when Virgil goes Sin Devil Trigger. With the fast-paced combat along with flying around and destroying the area around him. And just when you've brought Virgil to 0 HP, this motherfucker jumps in and attacks you, triggering a cutscene, with Virgil figuring out Nero is actually his son. Bro canonically had sex and forgot about it. I don't know, I just find that funny. But anyway, just when they were about to end their duel in their Sin Devil Trigger forms, Deadweight, Nero jumps in, blocking both of them in his own Sin Devil Trigger form, which he just unlocked. Dante sits out of the fight after being bitch-slapped and called deadweight by Nero, and just like that, the father and son fight begins. Then we get the best power-up in gaming history. No, media history in general. Fuck you! The fight is about the same, but this time we get to see Nero countering a stab. After the fight ends, Dante and Virgil team up once more to stop the Underworld from taking over. I feel like the ending of Devil May Cry 5 sets up Virgil to be an anti-hero, which, to be honest, I'm fine with. I mean, Virgil's pretty goated, so hopefully that means more screen time for him. But anyway, let's see which fight gets the gold medal. I'm sure y'all seen this coming. I mean, come on, this boss is the perfect mix of emotional and challenging. So after Dante and Virgil teamed up to defeat Arkham, they still have a score to settle. I know Devil May Cry 3 is known to be extremely challenging, but oh boy is this one difficult. Like the other Virgil fights, this one is fast-paced, but what makes this one stand out is the fact that it is by far the most emotional fight. The area you're fighting in, Unsacred Hellgate, is fucking beautiful. The soundtrack is smokin' sexy style tier. You thought the first two Virgil fights in this game were difficult? Well, they look like child's play compared to this one. Like seriously, I dare you to try to beat Virgil without getting hit. I bet you can't. But it all goes down to the second half of the fight, where Virgil just fucking goes insane with the combos and the regen. But after you defeat him, Virgil falls into the demon world and proceeds to pick a fight with Mundus. But anyone familiar with Devil May Cry lore would know Virgil got his ass beat by Mundus, and he would soon become Nilo Angelo. But it wasn't all bad for Virgil. I mean, he got out of having to pay child support for like 20 or so years, so there's that at least. But yeah, let's get to the outro. Were the results surprising to anyone? Probably not. Virgil's sweet, baby. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm not sure what I'm gonna be doing next at the moment, but whatever it is, I hope you look forward to it. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya, chump!